All right, I've interviewed 6 Rock and Roll Hall of Famers on that Jamieson show, but nobody from Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. But happy to have this guy on. Randy Johnson, legend. Hello, sir.
John, what's happening, brother?
We're buried in snow here in Jersey, but the show must go on. So it's good to talk to you. And listen, I feel like, I know you're a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer, but I think you should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for your service to heavy music.
Well, I was a avid viewer of your that metal show, and I had been listening to metal in some form or another since probably about 10 or 11 years old, because I had 2 older brothers, and I remember coming back, I'd come home from school and they would be listening to music, whether it was Deep Purple or Humble Pie or Leonard Skinner or, bands that I really didn't know much about until they were listening to it. So I was getting turned on to music at an early age. Robin Trower, all these, 70s. And then as I got older into high school, then I was starting to listen to what my friends were listening to and, what was relevant then. AC/DC, Van Halen, Ted Nugent, Aerosmith. And then, you go into the 90s now where I'm out of college and in the minor leagues or in the major leagues. And, I've already been listening to Iron Maiden a little bit, but now they're like, really entrenched in the metal and Metallica and all kinds of bands. So it started at an early age of more 70s, but now it's a little bit of everybody. I can listen to anything really.
Yeah, man, it's great. But so you had the long hair through most of your career until the Yankees made you cut it. You always wore, hard rock and heavy metal on your sleeves, man. You always talked about it. And then it's funny, man, because then I see you at the Big Four at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax. What a great night. And there you are walking through the crowd with a camera and you don't have to get up on a riser or anything, because at 6'10", what a great second job for you to have, because you're above the crowd in pretty much any situation.
Well, I love photography. I really got into photography when I was in high school. And then when I left high school, I got a scholarship to go play baseball at the University of Southern California. And so that really entrenched me even more so into photography. I studied photojournalism, and I actually started shooting for the college newspaper, and nobody else wanted to, we're talking like USC, right in the heart of LA in the 80s. I was there in, late 82, 83, 84, 85. So you can imagine all the different genres of music that were in LA by then, and all the clubs that I could go to and take pictures. And so I would shoot for the Daily Trojan, because nobody else really wanted to go to concerts. They would send me to those shows, and I'd take a couple of pictures to come back for the newspaper to do the concert review. And I just really enjoyed photography, and I always enjoyed music, but now I was putting my photography along with the music. And then I went to a whole nother level after I retired from baseball. A lot of these musicians that I've met, they may not be baseball, fans, but they're sports fans. And some of them, played baseball and know me. So it really opened the door. And a lot of times, I'm able to, photograph, a band that I really want to photograph, and even work with the person. Hey, I'll be on this side of the stage, out of everybody's way, and allowing them to have some of my photographs. I've have become good friends over the years during my playing days. I played 10 years in Seattle, so the whole music scene there was taking off, and the closest band that I really enjoyed listening to, and then we became friends with through my love of music and through their passion of baseball, it was a great trade-off. And that was the guys from Soundgarden.
Yeah.
And then after, I retired, I would go on the road with them and, for about 4 or 5 shows on the West Coast and take photographs and let them use them. And then did the same thing on the last tour, unfortunately, for Rush. I've known Geddy Lee since 1990, so that's a long time, and stayed in touch from then, and occasionally went out and took pictures of them, maybe when they were touring, when the season was over or what have you. But now that I was retired, I think it was in 2014, it was their last tour, or at least he felt it was going to be their last tour. Why don't you come on out and take some pictures? And he's always been very positive about my photography, and they gave me all access. And actually I started working with the publicist and ended up taking the picture that they needed for their DVD and CD package that they used for that R40 tour.
Oh, wow.
And so it worked out really great. But I do a lot of stuff. I travel the world for USO. I'm a big advocate for supporting our men and women that serve the country around the world. And I have, since I retired in 2009, I've been able to travel all over and visit the men and women around the world. And then after I'm done with that, then I might add on another week of going somewhere and going and seeing an area around that area that I'm visiting and incorporate some photography into that. So I think, I was so entrenched mentally and physically in baseball that to just not do anything ever, that's when you probably start going a little crazy and start feeling a little old,
Yeah.
And so to give me something that I can feel like I'm being creative, well, that would be photography. It doesn't need to be a concert, but it can just be, I'm talking right now from, about a block away from the beach. So I sometimes just go hang out there and shoot guys that are surfing or, walk around down the beach or go into LA and walk around the streets there. And
yeah,
so it's just a matter of keeping my mind going so I'm not going too crazy.
Well, because you athletes have to replace that because it's a very, obviously sports is such a competitive thing, but you kind of replaced it with something that's really not that competitive. There's no pressure on you to become this great photographer, but your stuff is amazing. And if people want to check it out, they go to rj51photos.com.
Yeah.
And it was funny when you were talking about Rush and going on the road with them or whatever. Geddy Lee was one of the first guests we ever had on that metal show, which was such an honor. And I think if we put you in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we could put Geddy in the Baseball Hall of Fame, because that guy has always talked about how much he loves baseball. I've been fortunate enough that when I'm in Toronto, we get together and have dinner or what have you. And I've seen his baseball collection, and I can only say that there might only be a couple collections bigger than that. And one of them would probably be the National Baseball Hall of Fame. But what Geddy has collected is pretty amazing. And a lot of things that, his passion is music, obviously, but he's a really good historian of baseball. And, it's kind of cool. I think that's probably why we got along. Every musician that I've got along with is, has a passion for something other than music. Yeah.
That's my passion. I want to ask them questions about, what was it like, what were you thinking when you made Hemispheres or 2112, or, telling them, the first time I ever saw you guys was in Oakland, California on the Permanent Waves tour. And then I was telling them about the band that warmed up. It was a band called FM, and they were a 3-piece band. And I remember from the nosebleed section where I was sitting when I was in high school, it was a 3-piece band. similar to kind of a really melodic kind of Rush feel. But the guy played electric violin, and it was funny that he remembered that band FM and had done work with them, in the past. And it was just a great trade-off, me talking music, but then he was talking baseball and stuff that I didn't even know have the answers for, I mean, it was just, and he was like just talking to a dictionary, an encyclopedia of baseball knowledge. And lots of musicians are like that, maybe not baseball, but they're really into hockey or football or basketball. And so I think it's a great trade-off. They're obviously gifted at what they do, and it's a great trade-off. They're allowing me to be in their workplace and take photographs, and in exchange, I do my best to capture some great moments of them and interaction with their fans, and then I let them have the images like I have with other bands, and it's just a matter of me trying to be creative, and I don't have that creativity with baseball anymore. I wish I did, but my creativity now is with photography, and that will never, you never get too old to carry a camera and go take photographs of whatever it is,
Yeah. Hey, listen, you played into your 40s, so, you did your service there. And, but I'm trying to picture you on the tour bus with Rush. There's no way you slept in one of those bunks, because your legs would go out of the bunks into the other aisle of bunks.
Well, I wasn't on a tour bus with Rush. I was on a plane traveling from place to place, but I have been on tour buses before. And,
those bunks are tight, man.
Being in something that confining is a little crazy. But once again, I was in the minor leagues for 4 years, and in the minor leagues, you're traveling by a bus.
Yeah.
And those bus rides can be, anywhere from 9 to 12 hours as well, from ballpark to ballpark. And, with certain bands, they might have 2 or 3 buses, depending upon what band you're traveling with. In the minor leagues, you're traveling with 25 baseball players, and the sooner you get on the bus, the better, because then you can pick where you want to sit.
Yeah.
If you get on late, then you're sitting on the floor, laying on the floor, or wherever it might be. So, there's a lot of similarities with travel and, just the dedication and all that. So it was just cool talking to people, the little nuances of, I'm sure when you were growing up listening to AC/DC and Ted Nugent and Aerosmith and all the metal bands that you listen to now, when you're sitting on stage, doing that metal show or even interviewing them, well, these were the bands that you never thought you were going to meet, and now you're interviewing them, and you have stories of that, and then you can get some insight from them, and with me, they might be asking me about baseball insight, and so it's a great trade-off. I don't feel like I'm overwhelming them, like I'm overwhelming them with asking them too many questions. It's a great trade-off.
Oh yeah, because Randy, every musician or comedian wants to be a sports star, and every sports star wants to be a musician or comedian, and and that's exactly what ends up happening. Is when you talk to somebody in the other world that you're interested in, that's what rockers all want to hear stories about sports. They don't. The last thing they want to talk about is rock music. They'd rather talk about what you're into, and then the same way back to them. But dude, you pitched in Seattle during the grunge years, and I know you were friends with a lot of those guys, and I don't know if this is true. A friend told me you wrote about 90% of the Queensryche albums in the 90s. So
yeah, I had seen them a few times when the main band, Jet City Woman and Empire was a big thing coming out of the metal scene out of Seattle, and then getting to know Scott Rockenfield a little bit, who had been in the band for many years after a couple of the main guys, the singer and the original guitar player, left the band. I still stayed in touch with Chris DeGarmo because, Scott Rockenfield, because I lived up in the area where he lived. And so, I got the opportunity to meet some, back in the day in the 90s, meet these guys, and it was kind of cool, and then they're into baseball and they come to the ballpark and, come in the locker room and meet some of the other guys on the team that might be into their music, or come and take batting practice. So it's just a great trade-off. And, it's really what being able to give back, in some small way, and sharing what I do with them, like they're sharing, here's a laminate. Yeah, just don't knock over any speakers, but feel free to roam wherever you want. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Was there any bands in particular or songs that were like your good luck songs when you were pitching? Did you have a playlist?
I wouldn't say there were good luck songs, but when I was there was so much different kind of music that I would listen to when I would drive to the ballpark on the day that I was pitching. And I remember listening to you're probably familiar with a Brazilian band called Sepultura.
Oh.
I would be listening to them on the way to the ballpark, and so I'm listening to that CD, probably the whole way through, and then listening to it halfway through by the time I get to the ballpark, and I got a little bit of rage going by that time, and that's exactly what I'm looking for on the day that I pitch. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but listening to that Sepultura, just had that Brazilian metal feel to it. With Igor Cavalera and Max, when they were both in the band, and the drums were just unbelievable. He was an unbelievable drummer, and had I never been a pitcher, in my next life, if I was going to come back as something, I would want to be a drummer. I just feel like drumming, is the coolest thing, and I'm not much of one, but I have a drum set. But having the opportunity to meet these drummers, listen to their music first of all, and then YouTube or see them in concert, and then watch them work. I guess the dedication is no different than what a baseball player or an athlete would have. They're dedicated at what they do. We see things differently because we want to be able to do that. How do you do that? And what does it take to do that? And then they're saying the same thing to your comedy. How do you get your set list? How do you think of these things? Well, you're thinking of relevant things that are happening in the world or in the country, and how can you put a joke to something that might make people laugh, or learning something about baseball. So they're very inquisitive too. So everybody's got their own way about going about their profession, but drumming was what I always wanted to do, and I just, not very good at it. So I really, when I come back in my next life, I'll be able to give my whole life to being dedicated towards playing drums.
Well, if you were come back as a drummer, I could see you coming back as the second coming of Igor, because, and I'll tell you, that guy, I've been lucky, man. I've got to watch a lot of bands side stage. I got to see a lot of drummers close up. I haven't seen anybody hit as hard as that guy did. You were the first pitcher to throw 100 miles an hour plus. So I could see you back there really like torturing those drums.
Yeah, I see coming back a mixture of maybe him, a little bit of him, and then a little bit of Keith Moon, and then a little bit of John Bonham, all the kind of music that I love, and then maybe a little bit of Buddy Rich,
all right.
Yeah, I love music, and just really enjoying retirement now. I've been retired for going on 12 years, and I think the one thing that has kept me motivated and going and not feeling retired and not feeling like I'm getting old is giving back of my time. And that's why I've been such an advocate for the USO. And until the COVID, every year since 2009, I was going at least one place, if not two, around the world. And getting so much out of it by meeting the men and women, and then having the ability to go somewhere else and implement my photography and visit some part of the world that I hadn't been before. So it was really a great trade-off. Giving my time to the men and women and telling them how much we appreciate them, and then doing some photography at the same time. I'm hoping to get back to that. Obviously I haven't been able to do it since last year. Last year I was going to be going to Turkey and be going and flying in the mountains in Black Hawk, something that I hadn't done, something that they said that they could get done for me. But then everything kind of went sideways with some of the Middle East things going on, and then COVID hit. So obviously the USO is never going to put anybody in harm's way. So that got canceled, and just looking to, get a call and be able to do something again whenever things are okay again.
Yeah, I agree, man, because I've done a tour for the Armed Forces Entertainment, and man, that's so rewarding. You're right, and that's so cool that you give back like that. As far as your photographs, and we could see your lovely friend in the background. I don't know if she knows that, but and that's okay. She's welcome on that Jamieson show.
Hey,
that was her subtle way of saying, listen, you told Randy 20 minutes. He's at 19 minutes and 30 seconds. I won't keep you much longer, man, because I'm right at 20 now. So, but with your photography, and again, man, honestly, man, your pictures are breathtaking. And like you said, you do stuff. You go out to the jungles of Africa and do stuff. And there's some really great concert shots on your website, rj51photos.com.
I really wish that, when we first started this interview, I was telling you that I was going to concerts, in the early 80s. So, but the bad thing is after I was done with college, then I had 4 years of the minor leagues on the East Coast in Florida and Jamestown, New York, and Indianapolis. And then when the season was over, I'd come back to my parents and start working out again. I would go through some negatives or slides from the 80s from college and think, well, I'm never going to use these. And there were negatives and slides, and, we're now getting, I just didn't really think that there was going to be a use for it. So some of the stuff got disregarded and thrown away, or some of it was damaged. And now I look back and I really wish that I had a lot of the images that I took back in the 80s. If for nothing else, primarily when I post something on my Instagram, it's just to share what I've taken a picture of, and you're seeing the picture because I like it. You're not seeing, you could come to the ballpark and watch me pitch a terrible game and you could boo me, but at least when I post something on my Instagram, that, hey, I like this, and hopefully you like it too. But there were so many images back from the 80s that I disregard and threw away. We're talking like all kinds of bands, and I just, 40 years later, you kind of forget who you saw back then. But that was what was so cool about taking photographs. And I have a few still, and I've posted a few. Some of my favorite images are of the Clash at the LA Coliseum when they warmed up for the Who. I believe it was in 82 or 83. USC campus is right across the street from the LA Coliseum. And so I went over there to photograph 3 songs back in the day, because the college newspaper was doing a review of the show. So that was probably, to this day, still my most favorite concert to go to, because in the 80s, I really liked the Clash, and, it was my only one opportunity to ever, I listened to their music all the time, but it was the only one opportunity that I ever got to photograph them. And so I'm glad that I still have some of those images. And so, there was not a greater time growing up than in the 70s with 2 older brothers and listening to that music, and then us growing up in our era and listening to the music that was becoming relevant then.
And I still am, and I always will. And you know, the good thing about photography, no steroid era. So no competition there. Hey man, listen, I appreciate your time. I'm going to let you go take pictures of surfers and enjoy your day. And man, thanks so much for this. This is a real treat for me.
Cool. Thanks, John.
Talk to you later, brother.